Chapter 14. Asanas practiced by an orangutan. We'd all decided to arrive at the start of the new moon. I'd gotten word that today hundreds and thousands of fireflies, also known as lightning bugs, would light up the cove for us. Now come on, really, the universe was a genius. You only had to look at all of us in the cove and our internal mechanisms to witness the universe's creativity. The human body is a work of art. Its mechanisms and systems are more advanced than a space shuttle. Everything that the human needs to heal, to live a healthy, beautiful, creative life in perfect harmony with its environment exists within them. And yet, they just keep building concrete structures that had no life and were devoid of any integration into the rest of nature. Sure, some few had built eco-structures that were not intrusive on us, but for the most part, so many of us had died and then been replaced with non-energetic concrete air conditioning and processed air. Each city is bringing the planet further into imbalance as its energy source disappears. Humans are literally choking the planet, and its slow death was being manifested in fires, hurricanes, earthquakes, and other acts that sought to try and bring the planet back into balance, and to bring back its breath. It was so desperately trying to heal itself, and the human did not see that. We all knew that there were many among them that wanted to live in balance with the rest of nature. Society, however, had made it such that only the well-off could afford to be environmentally conscious in their decisions. The average human in today's world could not afford the cost of living above plastic in an eco-friendly homes. Why is healthy food and healthy living so unaffordable? Why is junk food, booze, cigarettes, plastic disposables so affordable? Why do they not heavily tax the latter to subsidize the former? But it was what it was, and all we could do was change the present to influence the future. And what a present it was! The cove was lit up by thousands of twinkling lightning bugs. Had I not known where I was, I would have believed that I had arrived in outer space with its trillions of dancing and singing stars as I arrived at the end of the journey. Hypnotized by the splendor, I thought the end of every journey should look like this. And maybe it did, we just could not remember it. I found Corey by the water's edge, cooling his feet in ocean as the heat and the humidity rose all around us. He was deep in conversation with a loggerhead turtle, and I smiled. I knew the turtle's story would amaze him, and yet he would probably miss the point that all that wonder existed in him as well. He had just to connect with it. The loggerhead turtle weighed between 180 and 300 pounds. Some weighed up to 1,000 pounds. They began their journey by emerging from the sand with hundreds of other babies that slowly make their way back to ocean. And yet only 1 in 1,000 survives that exodus. Destined to never know their parents, they began their journey across ocean with only the love and knowledge of the universe to guide them. 17 years later, with no GPS system or Google Maps, they are guided by moon to find their way back to the place of their birth, to give birth to a new generation. With all the knowledge that lives within them, they know how to dig a hole with flippers the size of a human leg that does not collapse and houses up to 100 eggs. They know exactly how to cover up the hole without killing the eggs and to show no trace on the surface that they had ever been there. They know all of this, and yet no one sits down and teaches them it, or nor do they attend a turtle school. Loggerhead turtles are content in their solitude, only mixing with males to gather as much sperm as they can to fertilize hundreds of eggs over a period of 3 months. To all of us, they were remnants of an age of dinosaurs. They were magnificent, and they too were in danger of disappearing like the dinosaur, as the human hunted them for pleasure eating. We excused the very poor ones that did so to survive, but not the ones that ate them for pleasure or sold them without understanding that they were eating a part of their own consciousness. They were eating themselves out of a planet, out of life. But it was not just the feeding of humans that was killing them. So too did the nets in the ocean and all the artificial lights on the land of their birth. These white lights left them so confused that they often got lost and died, unable to find their way to the ocean. I landed beside Corey and greeted both of them. and Corey turned towards me with a sparkle in his eyes. I could see the child in him emerging as if he was truly seeing the world around him for the first time. How important it is for adults not to lose the child in them. Hello, Eagle. Did you know? Well, of course you know. The story of the loggerhead here is mind-blowing. How they know where and when to come back, guided by the moon, the stars, and themselves. And they are so warm, loving, and peaceful. I did know all that. And did you also know that the moon calendar is etched on their shell? In some native Indian cultures, it is believed that the turtle is the holder of all knowledge. They are also one of the longest living species in the world, for some can live up to 150 years. Loggerhead moved a little closer, allowing Corey to touch her face. As he did, he leaned in and gently kissed Loggerhead on the cheek. Thank you. Thank you for sharing and for allowing me to see the soul in you and the power of the universe. I am so sorry for what my species are doing to you. Loggerhead bowed her head. A time will come when it will be too late to see us, to see that we too carry joy, give birth to life, sustain the planet, and have a soul. Too late to see that we love and suffer just like you. In our case, the human is often the source of our suffering, whereas in you humans, you are the cause of your own suffering. It was a pleasure to feel you, human. I know the kindness and compassion in you, and to connect to the soul that you are still seeking within. I have seen what you cannot, your purpose. It is my deepest hope that one day through yoga you will connect to your true self, for only then will you really know and see us. With that, the loggerhead turned and gently slipped into ocean, a place where they had all felt safe, but no longer. In fact, there was not a place on this planet that was safe for us. Not the earth, nor the sky, nor the waters. Even in places where there were no humans, the human impacted our life because everything is connected. I left Corey deep in thought and flew up to the top of Baobab. I was humming softly as I did. I wanted to give everyone time to settle down and ponder on their own brilliance. Hello, beings and lightning bugs. Today we sit in gratitude for the luminous light you provide us in a world with so much darkness. Orangutan, dance your way over to the human and bring him to Baobab as we continue to teach him the benefits and necessity of asanas. Orangutan swung her way over to Corey. We all watched in amusement as she danced and shimmied over to Corey, took his hand and led him back. We saw the joy move back into him as Orangutan swirled him around. She was also humming a tune of happiness. She settled him into an arm of the tree and began as the rest of us lay down or reclined ourselves and listened under a blanket of stars up in the sky and their reflection in the fireflies that hovered around all of us. Human. Let's talk a little bit more about the human spine. It is one of the most important structures within you. It lays over the main channel sushumna and houses 2 nerves from every vertebra, which is the switchboard of the human body. Although there is no blood supply to the spine and vertebral column, there is no direct supply to the discs. This is similar to the joints and ligaments that only through movement and compression can get fed. No movement and no compression means that you are basically starving the connective tissue that are responsible for holding your human forms together. Therefore, when practicing asanas, the spine should always be straight. Even when you are bending from the waist, unless you are intentionally seeking to work the back muscles. When the spine is straight and elongated, the central and peripheral nervous system, which sprouts from it, are neutral. This means they are not being squeezed or stimulated to send a message to the body part that then draws your attention away from your breath. A straight spine instead allows for the smooth flow of energy known as prana through them. If the body is twisted in a way it should not be, the flow of energy is disrupted. Yoga asanas are so not an exercise because you should find a stillness in them that is swayed gently by your sattvic calming breath that frees you from the polarity that enslaves you humans. Hot, cold, hunger, thirst, joy, grief. When you achieve harmony in a pose between your body, breath, and mind, your metabolic process slows down and is calmed. This in turn lessens feelings of hunger, thirst, and other desires, all of which act as agitators to your energy. At a cellular level, your cells begin to dance because there's no threats to which it must attend. Instead, they have time to construct, heal, and reproduce. Rather than depleting your energy, they create energy. At the same time, through rhythmic inhalation and exhalation, your emotions are calmed and blockages to energy are broken down. This is why you feel so darn good after a yoga asana practice. It is also why you begin to feel subtle shifts within you as your energy begins to vibrate and resonate at a higher frequency. Now, human, there are so many variations of asana practices that it is hard to know what they all mean. Many of you, without proper knowledge, attach yourself to one type of practice and stay there. In that sense, asana practices reflect how you humans live and limit your lives. You get addicted to one type of practice. You work on only one part of the body, mostly muscle, and ignore all the other parts of the whole. Your joints, fascia, bones, mind, organs, and breath. So today, human swung orangutan off the tree into a somersault and onto the ground. I'm going to explain the different mask of asanas so you may practice with knowledge, not ignorance. She began to move around and ever so often came into a warrior pose as she began to narrate. The different practices you so often hear about are mostly a way of sequencing poses. In yoga, there are historically a set of poses that open, stretch, and strengthen your entire body. As yoga has moved to the West, the asana practices have become more flamboyant with the introduction of an array of new poses, each aimed at keeping the student engaged. Yet the point of yoga is to not mentally stimulate you, but to disengage you from your mind. By repeating the same traditional asanas, such that you can move deeper into them and gain all the benefits from each asana. Yang yoga practices focus on the muscle and stimulate your circulatory and lymphatic systems. The latter is an important network that flows from all your tissues and organs to your lymph nodes. There, it picks up the white infection immune cells and filters out such foreign material as bacteria and cancer cells, which, like all good visitors, should eventually leave. It collects excess fluid from your tissues and cells and returns it to the bloodstream that was too full to accommodate it, and it absorbs fat from the digestive tract. As you can see, the lymphatic system is an important part of your health. Yang practices that include sun salutations and inversions, especially headstands, ensure the movement of lymphatic system, which is dependent on movement to function. Words associated with yang are solid, movement, warm, active, functional, and creative. A good yang practice also stimulates your sympathetic creative system and releases trapped energy in you. A bad practice will deplete your energy by dipping into your qi, the finite core energy with which you are born. When your qi runs out, you basically drop dead. In yoga, I've heard it explained in a different way. You are born with a certain number of breaths. When you finish this finite amount, you are kaput. This makes sense because if your breathing is fast and shallow, you're mostly sitting in stress and fear, and well, you know that sequence by now. So human, if you've been running around all day like a nutcase and are exhausted, yang is not the practice for you. It will deplete you. Now, if you've been sitting around all day feeling lazy and immobile, then a yang practice is perfect, because in these practices you are activating your energetic self. Yang practices are popular these days in the human world as humans tend to shy away from silence and stillness. They never want to hear themselves because they are afraid of what they will hear. Then there's the ever-popular vinyasa. Though few who practice it know what a vinyasa is. It is the process by which you flow from up to down to plank to your stomach, lifting your chest and then coming back to down dog. Orangutan paused for a moment and demonstrated a vinyasa, and we all applauded as really it was a sight to see. A vinyasa practice will tie poses together with this flow. It seeks to dump stress, build strength, and increase the circulation of blood and oxygen, especially to places where your muscles are overly contracted. Vinyasa starts to loosen the body, and although it does stretch, it focuses more on strength. Ashtanga, the physical practice that originated from a system of hatha, is a slower style of yoga. It connects the body's movement with breath and focus. Iyengar, which like Ashtanga has its foundation in the 8 limbs of yoga, set out by Rishi Patanjali, whose yoga story we are retelling here, is a practice that focuses more on alignment and the use of props to ensure you are structurally correct and your focus is directed toward a body part. Kundalini Yoga fundamentally seeks through rapid movements and breath to open and balance your chakras and awaken the Kundalini Shakti in you. A good yoga class will focus on traditional yoga poses as these mirror your body's energetic systems. They are meant to be repeated, so over time you can slowly bring your body back to its proper alignment and structure. A place where nothing is squashed, twisted, or buried and all your organs and glands are deeply massaged. Hatha Yoga, one of the oldest forms of yoga, is a balance between yin and yang yoga and seeks to bring your body back into homeostasis, balance. It is a slower practice and poses are held for longer periods. Many say that Hatha and Ashtanga are the embodiment of yoga on a mat. Then there is Yin Yoga for all your connective tissue, your world-famous fascia and your mind. Yin is where humans hold poses for 3 or more minutes, because on average it takes 2 minutes for your muscles to relax and the tension to move to your connective tissue. Once there, cells known as fibroblasts are released at the site. Their primary functions are to strengthen fibrous connective tissue, increase its flexibility, and maintain, improve, and detoxify the lubrication within your joints. Yin ensures that all your fibrous tissues are connected in an organized way. This is especially true of your fascia, within which sits your communication cable network. Your body really is a self-contained spaceship that can either navigate you through space smoothly or completely fall apart, thereby cutting your journey short. Yin is also deeply important for your bones. Did you know, Corey, that your body is constantly regenerating itself? Skin cells regenerate every 2 to 4 weeks, the liver cells every 150 to 500 days, your stomach cells every 5 days, and your entire bone network every 10 years. Your whole body changes every 12 years such that there is not one cell in you that was there 12 years ago. This is why people who practice yoga's 8 limbs begin to look younger. They fuel the regeneration of cells through movement, compression, oxygen, and happy emotions. As you age, yoga asanas reduce the rate at which your regenerative process slows down. Within all your bones reside cells called osteocytes that comprise 90% of the living cells in an adult bone. At its simplest explanation, osteocytes communicates with osteoblasts, which are responsible for new bone growth, and osteoclasts, which are responsible for breaking down and reabsorbing bones. In yin practices, when you send compression to your bones, osteocytes signal osteoblasts to create and form new bone. These cells are so smart that they do so in an organized, coherent fashion. When you are inactive, however, there is no compression, tension, and stress on the bone, and your calcium levels are low, osteocytes change allegiances and ask osteoclasts to reabsorb nutrients from your bone, thereby weakening them. In Chinese medicine, yin also ignites your meridians, or the energy channels that are connected to all your organs. In doing so, it gives your organs a good shaking and boost of energy to ensure that they are working at their optimal level and your emotions remain in balance. At the level of the mind, unlike yang yoga that increases your focus, yin seeks to move you to a place of introspection and to allow the mind to sit in a state of calmness so it may observe your mind, your koshas, conditionings, habits, and addictions from a place of non-attachment. In holding space for silence, yin also gives you the time to let go of your attachment to your thoughts, to release them from bondage, thereby allowing yourself to slowly move to a place of knowing your true self. Now, human, before we end today, let me give you some tips so you may begin to dive into the world of asanas. Orangutan began to physically present the words that were dropping from her beautiful hairy face. Always start your practice with 5 to 10 yogic breaths to bring your mind into the present, onto the mat and into your body, to calm your mind and therefore your breath. Take stock of your body and where you may be holding stress or injuries. Note where you feel heavy and where you feel light and spacious. Be sure to be present throughout your practice. Breathing through the heaviness creates more space within you for light to enter. Set an intention for your practice of a change you want to see in you. If you've been sitting all day, begin with some sun salutations to warm your body, get oxygen to all your muscles, and remove the stress and carbon dioxide from you. Here are some general rules. Enter forward bends before back bends. Remember that forward bends encourage introspection, a journey inward, as well as cleaning the liver, spleen, and digestive organs, among others. Whereas back bends opens you up to the infinite possibilities that exist out in the universe for you. They are the place where the impossible is possible. They also work on such places as your kidney and adrenal glands. In forward bends, shut out the external world. In back bends, shed your labels, your judgments, your stereotypes. Step out of your boxes and just lay yourself open to the universe and surrender. Work your core before entering back bends. Always do a twist after a back bend to neutralize the spine. Try and end your practice with an inversion, a headstand, or a shoulder stand, for inversions boost your immune system. Every muscle has an antagonist, so if you are stretching or strengthening your hamstrings, make sure you are also working your quads and psoas muscles. To do one without the other is to risk injury. It is well worth investing in a yoga anatomy book to better understand your anatomy. Finish with 1 or 2 restorative poses and then a shavasana. Even if the shavasana is for 2 minutes, it allows your body to create memory and heal. Now, Corey, come down here so I can show you how to do a headstand. Elephant, come a little closer to act as a support for Corey should his balance falter. Elephant lumbered over and got down on all fours. Orangutan led Corey to kneel such that the side of the elephant was facing him. At some point I figured we could ask a whale shark to open its mouth and ask Corey to enter, and he would. We all laughed at the thought except for Corey, who was too concentrated on the task at hand to hear any of us. Now, get on all fours and place your elbows in line with your shoulders. Then bend your forearms inward so that there is a hand wrapped around each elbow. What we are doing here is setting up a correct alignment. Now open the forearms, moving without moving the elbows, and make a cup with your hands. Place the crown of your head on the earth and support the back of your head with the cupped hands. Now slowly, keeping the forearms grounded and pushed into the earth, lift the lower half of you into a downward facing dog pose. Begin to walk your feet towards your hands, and when you get to the point where your feet start to lift off the ground, lift one leg and then the other, using the elephant side to support you. We watched as Corey kicked his legs up and Orangutan took them and held them up towards sky. She then gently pushed his legs against Elephant's, who oddly was tickled and giggled. She did this just to show him that there was a support there and he ought not to allow fear to enter him. Corey, don't worry. I've got you in the front. Now push your forearms into the earth almost as if you wanted to lift your head off the earth. The foundation of headstand is all in your arms and shoulders, not in your neck. Now gently squeeze your skeleton as you do in mountain pose and then push the bush. Push what? Corey explained. You know, the bush, the mound between your legs. Push it slightly forward to bring it into alignment. I could hear upside down giggles everywhere. Ta-da! You got it, Corey, the king of yoga poses. Now stay here for 5 breaths, breathing through the nose with your eyes open. Balance becomes more challenging when your eyes are closed, though one day you will be able to do this without an elephant and with your eyes closed. When Corey was finished, Orangutan helped him lower his legs and then put him into a child's pose where he remained to allow the blood to return to the designated areas. As he slowly rolled his spine up, we could see the glow in him. Handstands were great for bringing you back into happiness. Thank you, orangutan and elephant. That was amazing. I was afraid of that pose and had convinced myself that it was not important. Given the right alignment, it was easier and felt more powerful than I thought. You're welcome, Mr. Corey. It is because most people believe that they need to stand on their head, which is painful and uncomfortable to the neck. Try and do one every day as long as your nose is not blocked, for as long as your arms will hold you. Now, I think we are done for today. And if you will excuse me, I'm going to dance over to a banana. I turned to Sky. Thank you, lightning bugs, for lightening our path today. It has brought all of us to a wonderland of possibility. Now, Corey, if it is okay with you, I'm going to allow some of the fireflies to escort you back. They are wanting to share the magnificence with you. His disappointment was palpable, which I understood, for it had been some time since I had accompanied back to duality. But he was not mine to own. It was important that as many of us as possible connected to him. I knew that a time would come when there would be no separation between us. He did not need my physical presence to feel my love or for me to accompany him, for I sat in his heart and he in mine.